30 days might not seem like enough to transform a life, but what I've discovered is that it's not time that drives change. It's the intensity of the decisions made within it. There are moments when life demands a rupture, a silent enough that forces us to choose differently. And when we do, time expands. What once seemed impossible over months can happen in weeks. That's when I realized that 30 days aren't just marks on a calendar. They can be the turning point between the person you are today and the one you're meant to become. The secret isn't waiting for perfect circumstances, but adopting habits that, repeated daily, reshape your identity and your outcomes. These habits aren't random. They're intentional choices that demand discipline, but deliver power. If you want to find out how to become unrecognizable in just 30 days, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel, because what I'm about to share might change more than your routine. It might change the way you exist in the world. Habit 1. Decide who you'll be before expecting results. At the start of my transformation, I made the mistake of waiting for results before feeling different. I'd say things like, when I lose weight, I'll feel more confident. When I make more money, I'll dress better. When I become disciplined, I'll feel capable. But days kept passing and nothing changed, because I was still stuck in my old identity. Watching people who had drastically changed their lives, I noticed something. They didn't wait for the results to show up. They already lived as if they were the version they wanted to become. That was the key. Before any external change, I made an internal commitment. I am a decisive, disciplined, and prosperous person, and I started acting like it. I walked with more purpose, chose my words more clearly, and made small decisions aligned with this new identity. At first, it felt like I was pretending, but little by little, I realized the brain reshapes itself to this new reality, and the results start following the identity, not the other way around. That's when I understood something powerful. Identity creates action, and action creates results. If you keep waiting, you'll stay stuck. But when you decide to be before you have, something shifts. You start living the future in the present, and that changes everything. Today, I don't wait for external proof to believe in who I am. I decide. And the results confirm what I already live internally. Comment, I decide my identity today, if you also believe that transformation begins with how you choose to see yourself. Habit 2. Treat your time as your most valuable asset. I used to say I don't have time all the time. It was the perfect excuse for everything I kept putting off. But if someone had looked closely at my routine, they'd see hours spent on social media, in pointless conversations, and in distractions that only drained my energy. Watching people who transform their lives quickly, I realized they don't have more hours in a day than I do. They just treat every minute like $1 million asset. I decided that for 30 days my time would have an owner, my future self. I structured my days like I was running an empire. I created non-negotiable focus blocks, set specific times for rest, and established clear boundaries for anything that didn't add value. In the beginning, saying no was uncomfortable. I was afraid of disappointing people or seeming too rigid. But I quickly discovered something surprising. When you protect your time, you gain more energy, more clarity, and even more freedom. I realized that I don't have time usually means I don't have priorities. When I started prioritizing for real, the small tasks stopped draining me, and I started making progress on things that once felt impossible. Time didn't change. I changed how I used it. Today I see every minute as a seed. I can waste it on distractions, or invest it in the life I'm building. The choice is mine every single day. Comment, my time is gold, if you've also decided to invest your minutes like you're planting seeds of freedom. Habit 3, eliminate distractions like trimming the excess. For a long time, I underestimated the weight of distractions. I thought a few minutes on my phone, a quick reply to a notification, or a tab left open on my computer didn't really matter. But all it took was a glance at my day to realize it was these tiny escapes that were stealing entire hours of productivity. My mind was scattered, unable to dive deep into anything truly important. When I looked at people who made massive leaps in a short time, I noticed one common trait. They guarded their attention as fiercely as they guarded their money. They treated every distraction like a silent thief that needed to be cut off. That's exactly what I decided to do. On the first day, I did a radical cleanup. I deleted apps that drained me, muted all notifications, organized my workspace, and became intentional about the content I consumed. At first, the silence was uncomfortable. It felt heavy, like something was missing. But slowly, that emptiness turned into clarity. Ideas surfaced, projects progressed, and even my body felt less tired. I discovered that distractions don't just steal time, they steal depth. And without depth, no great result can be born. Cutting the excess gave me access to a strength I didn't even know I had. Today I understand that every yes to the trivial is a no to the essential. That's why I guard my attention as the most precious asset I have. Comment: I eliminate what weakens me if you've also decided to cut the excess and make room for greatness. Habit 4. Trust repetition more than novelty. I used to be addicted to novelty. Every week I was chasing a new book, a new technique, a new method. I thought the answer was always hidden in the next idea. But in the end, I was just collecting attempts without consistency, and my results stayed the same. It was by observing people who truly transformed their lives fast that I noticed something unsettling. They weren't chasing the new. They were repeating what already worked, with discipline. At first it felt boring, waking up at the same time, writing down goals daily, training consistently, reviewing my learnings. I craved excitement. I wanted quick results. But repetition showed me something far more powerful: trust. Every time I kept a habit, even without motivation, I was building the feeling that I could count on myself. It was like laying bricks every day in the foundation of a solid house. I realized that consistency is the real game changer. It's not the occasional intensity that brings transformation, but the daily commitment to what seems simple. Novelty might excite, but it's repetition that transforms. And that consistency is what made me unrecognizable in such a short time. Today I see repetition as a silent ally. It gives structure, builds discipline, and creates lasting results. Comment: I choose the repetition that builds. If you also believe the extraordinary is born from doing the simple things, every single day. Habit 5. Respect money before multiplying it. My relationship with money was always tangled in conflicting emotions. When I had little, I lived in anxiety. When I spent, guilt followed. When I thought about investing, fear crept in. I treated money as a constant problem, never as an ally. But when I looked at people who achieved financial growth fast, I realized they respected money even before they had a lot. That mindset shift was transformational. I decided to face my finances head-on, no more avoiding. I started tracking every expense, organizing it into categories, analyzing where my money was going. At first, it was uncomfortable. It hurt to see how much I wasted on irrelevant things. But that shock was necessary to understand that money reveals who we are. It shows our priorities, our escapes, even our fears. I learned to ask myself with every expense, does this bring me closer to or further from the person I want to become? That one reflection changed everything about how I handle money. I stopped spending to numb emotions and started investing to evolve. Courses, books, tools, experiences that helped me grow. Money stopped being a monster and became a mirror of my awareness. Today I know that respecting money doesn't mean worshiping it. It means treating it with the seriousness it deserves. Those who avoid their finances will never find freedom. But those who take control, even of the small things, make room for abundance to flow. Comment: I respect the money I want to attract. If you've also chosen to turn your financial life into a tool for power and awareness. Habit 6. Cultivate silence to hear what truly matters. For a long time, I ran from silence. I'd turn on the TV while getting ready, listen to music during commutes, get lost in endless social media conversations. It was like noise was a kind of anesthetic, filling a void I didn't want to face. But I realized that people who transformed their lives quickly had something in common. They all cultivated intentional moments of silence. Silence, for me, started as a challenge. In those first few days, just 5 minutes without stimulation triggered anxiety. My mind felt like it was screaming for distraction. But the more I practiced, the more I felt the shift. In silence, ideas would emerge, answers became clearer, and even emotions I'd been avoiding surfaced to be dealt with. It was uncomfortable at first, but liberating afterward. I remember writing in my journal during one of these moments, what am I avoiding hearing from myself? That question became a ritual, and the answers I found in silence were far more powerful than any external advice. I learned to distinguish between intuition and fear. I uncovered strengths buried beneath too much noise and clarified decisions I'd been postponing for months. Today I understand that silence isn't absence, it's presence. It's where I find my focus, restore my energy, and reconnect with who I want to be. This habit has become one of the most valuable tools in my 30-day journey. Comment: in silence I find my power, if you also believe clarity is born when the noise fades. Habit 7. Set bold goals and embrace the discomfort of growth. For a long time, I hid behind small goals. I called it being realistic, but deep down it was fear. Fear of failing, fear of judgment, fear of wanting too much and ending up disappointed. until I noticed that people who became unrecognizable in a short time weren't afraid to want big things. Their goals were bold enough to give them butterflies, and that's exactly what pushed them beyond the ordinary. So I decided to try it. Instead of writing down safe goals, I put intimidating objectives on paper, doubling my productivity, increasing my income, strengthening my body, and finally tackling projects I kept putting off. The moment I wrote them down, I felt a wave of anxiety. It was uncomfortable to picture a version of myself so far from who I currently was. But I realized that this discomfort was a sign. I was growing. The process wasn't easy. My routine tried to sabotage me. My mind made up excuses, and I wanted to give up more than once. But with each small win, my confidence grew. I discovered that discomfort isn't the enemy. It's part of the path. If it feels too easy, it probably means you're still in the same place. Today, I understand that big goals aren't just about the results. They're about who you become along the way. Playing small might feel safe, but it's also a cage. When you dare to dream big, your life expands along with your courage. Comment: I embrace the discomfort of growth. If you've also decided that expansion requires goals that challenge and scare you. Habit 8. Align your outer image with your inner identity. For years, I told myself, what matters is what's inside. And yes, the inside is the foundation. But I realized I was using that phrase as an excuse not to take care of myself, not to embody the image of the woman I wanted to become. I dressed without intention, slouched when I walked, spoke without confidence. The result was clear. Even as I was changing on the inside, the world still treated me like my old self. Everything shifted when I realized that how I present myself is an extension of my identity. It's not about vanity, it's about coherence. I saw this in the people I admired. Every detail, their clothes, posture, tone of voice, reflected the confidence they were building within. And I realized that if I wanted to be taken seriously, I had to align what I felt inside with what I projected outside. I started small, choosing outfits that conveyed strength, adjusting my posture when I walked, taking care of little things like my hair and nails. At first it felt insignificant. But when I looked in the mirror, there was a silent validation. I saw someone becoming different, and something magical happened. People started perceiving me differently too, with more respect, more attention, and even more opportunities. I learned that your external image isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about reinforcing who you've already decided to be. When your essence and appearance are in sync, your presence speaks for you before you say a word. Comment: my image reinforces who I am, if you've also chosen to align your outer presence with the inner power you're building. Habit 9. Protect your energy and stop justifying yourself. There was a time when I felt obligated to explain every step I took. If I said no to an invite, I'd quickly make up an excuse. If I changed my routine, I felt the need to justify it to everyone. If I dreamed bigger, I'd rush to say I wasn't trying to be arrogant. That habit drained me and made me feel guilty just for growing. Watching people who became unrecognizable in a short time, I noticed something crucial. They didn't waste energy on unnecessary explanations. They made decisions and moved on. Not because they were insensitive, but because they understood that trying to convince someone who's not ready to understand is just giving away your power. One of them told me something I'll never forget. If you feel the need to explain yourself too much, it's because you're still seeking permission to be who you've already decided to be. From then on, I started practicing silence. When someone questioned my choices, I smiled and moved on. At first, it was uncomfortable. It felt like I was being misunderstood. But over time, I discovered that the people who truly matter don't require explanations. And more importantly, my results started speaking louder than any justification ever could. I learned that protecting my energy is just as essential as protecting my time. Every explanation I gave was like handing over a piece of my power to someone who didn't always know how to value it. Today, I only explain when it makes sense, and I've never apologized again for growing. Comment: I don't explain my evolution, I live it. If you've also decided to stop asking for permission to be who you've already chosen to become. Habit 10. Decide instead of just trying. For a long time, the word I used the most was try. I'll try to wake up early. I'll try to eat better. I'll try to be more organized. It sounded harmless, but it held a trap. It gave me a comfortable way out to quit without guilt. After all, if it didn't work, at least I could say I tried. The turning point came when I realized that the people who truly transformed didn't try, they decided. One of them said to me, "While you're trying, I'm deciding." And that's the difference between those who make it and those who don't. That hit me hard. I realized that trying leaves space for excuses. But deciding closes every door except the one that moves you forward. I started replacing "I'll try" with "I'll do." At first, it felt like just a change in wording, but quickly I saw the difference. My actions became firmer, my mindset sharper, and even the people around me began to see me with more respect. When you decide, your presence shifts, because there's no hesitation, only commitment. Today, I understand that decision is the seed of all transformation. You don't need to feel ready or have all the answers. You just need to decide. And that decision, repeated day after day, is what can make anyone unrecognizable in just 30 days. Comment, "I decide," and it's done, if you've also chosen to drop the trying and embrace decision as a way of life. Looking back, I realize it wasn't big events that changed my life, but small habits, practiced with discipline over 30 days. It was choosing a new identity, protecting my time, cutting distractions, repeating with consistency, respecting money, embracing silence, setting bold goals, aligning my image, preserving my energy, and above all, choosing to decide instead of just trying. Each habit seemed simple, even obvious, but together, they created a transformation so deep that today, I hardly recognize the person I used to be. The most powerful part? This process doesn't depend on luck or perfect circumstances. It depends on you, on your willingness to commit to yourself, day after day. 30 days may not sound like much, but when every decision is made with intention, it's more than enough to build the foundation of a new life. So here's a reflection for you. Who could you become in 30 days if you stopped waiting for the perfect moment and just started today? The answer lies in the choices you make when you wake up, the priorities you set, and the habits you repeat. Don't underestimate the power of a well-lived month. It can be the turning point that separates your current self from the version of you that's unrecognizable. I want to hear from you. Which of these habits will you start applying today? Drop it in the comments and declare your decision. Your affirmation might just be the first step in locking in this transformation. And if this content resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Every new video is an invitation for you to build a life with more intention, clarity, and power. Because becoming unrecognizable in 30 days isn't a distant dream. It's simply the reflection of bold choices made now.